Texas has a massive recruiting week ahead. On Thursday, the Longhorns will find out if five-star edge Colin Simmons will be a Longhorn, a Tiger, maybe a Cane. I mean, I think they're just a hat on the table, but the Canes did make the final three. We're going to break down Colin Simmons' big decision, but first, Wardell Mack, the four-star DB, the number 2 player in the state of Louisiana, is now trending away from the Tigers and towards the Longhorns. Let's bring on Jerry Hamilton of Inside Texas. Jerry, on Wardell Mack, Gators are pushing hard. LSU has always been involved, and there's even some FSU noise right now. But why do you feel good about where the Longhorns stand for Mack? Well, we don't know exactly when he's going to decide, but we do think it's going to be a summer decision.
Yeah, I think things have been trending to a decision, before his senior season, early into his senior season. Look, I think coming out of the official visit weekend in June, there was some optimism on the Texas side, and I think at that time maybe it was more from the circle of Wardell Mack, right? I think there's the academic athletic combination at Texas is a very popular couple people in Wardell Mack's circle. Then he goes to Florida that last weekend in July, and look, Corey Raymond, Jabbar Jalouk, Billy Napier. There, I mean, there's a lot of Texas has Terry Joseph, right? And,
yeah.
Brandon Harris. There's a lot of Louisiana connections in this recruitment. But when I was at John Ehret, Josh, I guess that was mid-July. And I talked to Wardell Mack. He really likes Florida now. He really likes Florida. There's no doubt when you talk to him, he likes Florida. Frank Wilson's involved on the LSU side. So the crazy thing with the Wardell Mack recruitment for me is whether he commits to Texas or Florida before the season, this is one that whoever wins, they got to deal with Frank Wilson in New Orleans the whole way through until December. So this is one of those recruitments that, he's going to probably pick a school before the season. And right now that's trending away from LSU. And I think there's a little more confidence on the Texas side than Florida side. But even if Texas wins out, Frank Wilson's not walking away.
So you think,
as you know, Josh, New Orleans, Frank Wilson doesn't walk away.
So what you're kind of saying is regardless of where he decides during the summer or early fall, LSU is still maybe the favorite to land him in the end?
I mean, I don't know about that, but I do know this. The LSU is not just going to let him go to a Texas or Florida, especially when you get – one, he's in New Orleans, right? That's the area for LSU. That is the area above all areas. And two, there's also competitiveness in these recruitments. I mean, Frank Wilson is friends with guys at Texas. Frank Wilson is friends with these guys at Florida. There gets to be a real competitiveness within these recruitments outside of the fans following where Wardell Mack's going.
Yeah. All right, let's get to it. Let's go to Duncanville, Texas, where five-star edge Colin Simmons is almost set for a decision. We're about 4 days away. He's going to be deciding on Thursday. Now, you put your pick in for Texas coming off that June 23rd official visit. What was it coming out of that visit that caused you to put the pick in for Texas?
Of all the prospects that weekend, there was about as much positive momentum with Colin as anyone. And that continued on here early in July and midway through July. And then, he was scheduled to visit Texas A&M July 28th night. That changed to LSU, and he did not go to Texas A&M. So that thing ends up right where we thought it was going to be. And Josh, you said Miami's a hat on the table. They're out, right? This is Texas LSU. It's a hat on the table. You're right. So then he goes to LSU that last weekend, and that kind of brought back all those feelings he's had about LSU in the past. Obviously, we mentioned Frank Wilson earlier. He's very much in the picture for LSU in this recruitment. He's gotten involved for the Tigers, and that's when you know that it's a real recruitment, and maybe LSU felt like they had some ground to make up there on Texas. But, look, Colin, coming out of that visit, of all the kids that visited Texas that weekend, there was as much positive chatter about Colin Simmons as there was anybody, and they've had a few commitments. Texas had a few commitments since that time. So
what's your confidence right now in that pick as we're just 4 days away from a decision?
I think what's interesting is there's a few recruits in every cycle that truly hold the cards, right?
Yep.
They know where they're going. They're in control of their recruitment and their decision. And I think Colin's one of those guys. And I think Colin Simmons has a very good idea of where he's going to go in 4 days. And I think he's the one right now that knows that. I don't know if you said put in an RPM today, I'm not sure I would. I mean, I might chill out for a day or two on this, right, and see what else we hear. But I think Colin knows where he's going, and I think he's the only one right now that knows where he's going.
All right, so Texas fans that are sweating this one out right now, you're basically telling them that this week doesn't really matter in terms of new developments happening. You think that Colin Simmons entering this week already has his school picked out?
Yeah, I think he has a good idea where he's going. I think you announce an August 10th date, and you're already moving towards that commitment date before your last visit. You have a pretty good idea what you're going to do. Now, as you know, Josh, all our years' experience, once you put out a date publicly, that amps up your recruitment. That amps up the pressure. That amps up both of those schools really going head-to-head, making those last runs. So it can leave a hint of doubt in your mind. But I don't think Colin Simmons picked his commitment date and decided, okay, this is when I'm doing this. And, yeah, it corresponds with before Duncanville's season getting going to block out all that noise as they go for a repeat. But you also have to know where you're going.
What do you make of our boys, Shea Dixon and Billy Embody over at the Bengal Tiger, dropping those RPM picks for LSU coming out of that Bayou Splash weekend?
So here's my thought is, I think both programs have confidence in Colin Simmons. And I think that's not a surprise in this recruitment. Like I said, there's very few recruits that hold all the cards, right? And they really do. And Colin's one of those few guys in every cycle. I think both coaching staffs have reason to feel confidence right now, but somebody's going to finish second.
Somebody's got to.
Somebody's got to finish second. And look, it's like this is one of those recruitments where a lot of people on the Texas side that cover Texas outside of just in our industry are hearing great things for Texas. LSU hearing great things for LSU. That's outside the On3 network. That's in our industry. That's what makes our jobs fun and also stressful at the same time.
Yeah, and it's why people love to follow recruiting. You just never really know what's going to happen. So
and Josh, from a Texas side, Josh, you're moving into the SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas fans have to understand this is every year now. I mean, this is every year on guys you're battling for, whether in Texas, in Louisiana, in Georgia, in Florida. I mean, DeAndre Robinson was a tight recruitment all the way down, even though Texas felt good about it. Florida was feeling good about it in 24 hours before he announced too. That's the way these recruitments are going to go for the most part in the SEC.
Yeah. All right. Let's move back to the state of Louisiana. We talked about the number 2 ranked player in the state. Now let's talk about the number 1 ranked player in the state, 5-star defensive lineman Dominick McKinley. Now, it looks like he might be leaving the state. What teams outside of LSU do you think are the biggest threat to land Dominick McKinley right now?
You know, I haven't heard anything that's changed on that, Josh. Coming out of the June official visits, it was Oklahoma, Texas, Texas, Oklahoma were the 2. A&M was considered 3rd from what I was told as far as the schools he visited in June. And so, look, I think it's an interesting recruitment because if Dominick leaves the state of Louisiana, he just wants to do something different. It's nothing against LSU. He just wants to go away and get a different experience.
Right.
Now, the question becomes there, if it comes down to a Texas, Oklahoma, if LSU's not going to be his destination, is Austin a little closer to family than Oklahoma is? And the mom has been in education for 24 years now. And I do know from talking to her and Dominick and his brother Darius at the Austin Bergstrom Airport after their official visit, the mom definitely mentioned the academic factor at Texas, and she's been a teacher for 24 years. So I think Texas has a little bit of that going for him in this recruitment. We'll see which way it goes. I know Dominick has a great relationship with Todd Bates at Oklahoma, but the question is, if he's going to leave Louisiana, if that becomes his decision, then is Texas being closer to home the actual decision maker there?
All right. Are things still good with Texas and 5-star cornerback Kobe Black?
Yeah, I think so. I think Texas is still in a good spot there. He was on campus at Texas A&M the last weekend in July. And look, there's got to be competition for these guys, right?
There's going to be.
There's got to be. Else, one, we don't have jobs. But, to be real. But look, I think Texas is a good spot for Kobe Black. I think the big question with Kobe, does he decide to do something before the season, or does it go a little bit into the season?
Right.
Because he does have visits scheduled, possibly visits scheduled to LSU and Alabama early in the season. So we'll see which way that goes. But I think Texas is in a pretty good spot there.
Yeah, I just wonder, because we've seen a couple recruitments get away from Texas a little bit, like the Corian Gibson one. You know, if Colin Simmons goes to LSU, do you think that maybe Texas, well, I don't know, is there anything Texas could possibly do to maybe lock down Kobe Black before the season starts? Or do you think, like you said, he just simply holds all the cards in this one?
Yeah, I think in a way he holds all the cards. I mean, look, the five-star guys are tough to pin down and say, hey, we want you to commit on this date. That's almost like a losing proposition in a lot of ways. So I think he holds the cards. I think the key there is that Kobe Black's family, his brother plays Oklahoma State, his father played for Bill Snyder at Kansas State. They've been through recruiting. They understand the recruiting process. They also understand the being healthy, you know, what can happen on a football field, what can deter things. So yeah. I think that's going to be a discussion that's going to be key in Kobe Black if he moves his timeline up to right before the season.
All right, Jerry, I just got to ask. The #1 wide receiver in Texas, Micah Hudson, it feels like a commitment was imminent about 8 weeks ago, and then we just never heard anything. So has there been any traction with Texas and Micah Hudson during the month of July to think that the Longhorns might have a shot here?
I mean, look, one thing that Texas fans know from following Steve Sarkisian since he's been in Austin is they don't really back off the top targets. I call it recruiting through the whistle, right? The coaches ask the players to play through the whistle. The coaches have to recruit through the whistle. And they're definitely recruiting through the whistle. They did it up with Kelvin Banks when he was committed to Oregon, right? And that one looked like it was going to flip the Texas even before Cristobal went to Miami. But after he did, it was over. So Texas is good. They've maintained contact there. And the longer this one plays out, and I'm not saying Texas Tech isn't the favorite because they clearly are, but the longer it plays out, if it gets into December, even the Under Armour All-America game, if that actually happens, then that's not the best news for Texas Tech out there because that gives Texas and everybody else a chance to chip away. And the everybody else chipping away helps somebody like Texas when Texas Tech's the heavy favorite.
Yeah, you're right. And also, if this thing goes into the fall, Texas has a shot to prove it on the field that, hey, wake up. Point. This is the place you should be. So we'll see what happens. But, hey, that's a long way away. What's not a long way away is this Colin Simmons decision. Just 4 days away, August 10th. Colin Simmons at Duncanville High School. All right, Jerry Hamilton, thanks for joining the Inside Scoop.
You got it.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.